one nation, one election.
One nation, one election.
One nation, one election.
On 17th of December 2024, a bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha which has now caused a political battle in India. One nation, one election. This bill is said to be so game-changing, so transformative and so controversial that the government calls it the biggest reforms in Indian electoral history. While the BJP says that it will boost India's GDP by nearly 5 lakh crores, the opposition calls it an attempt to weaken democracy and set India on the path to dictatorship. This bill is the One Nation, One Election bill. Opposition claims that the bill will finish off regional parties and that it has been brought in only to massage the ego of the supreme leader. One nation, one election. One nation, one party. One nation, one leader. According to them, it is not an election reform, it is just the fulfillment of one gentleman's desire and dream, nothing more than that. While the political parties fight over this bill, most of our media is busy turning this debate into a TRP circus. So we decided to read through some detailed research paper reports by the government, most importantly the articles criticizing this policy, so that we can cut through the chaos and help you understand. In this video, we will understand what is this One Nation, One Election bill, how will it actually work, will it really save us money, or it is just a political gimmick, why is the entire opposition calling it a threat to democracy, and finally, in this really a masterstroke by the BJP or a threat to democracy as the opposition claims. One nation, one election is one of the BJP's distraction, or is it the concept even feasible for India? Part 1. What is One Nation, One Election bill? Let's start with the basics. The One Nation, One Election bill is a proposal to synchronize all elections in India such that the Lok Sabha elections and state assembly elections will happen at the same time every 5 years. Whereas if you look at our election system right now, we literally have multiple elections every single year. For example, in 2024, we first have the Lok Sabha elections, then immediately after the Lok Sabha elections, we saw elections happen in Jammu and Kashmir, Haryana, Maharashtra and Jharkhand. All these elections happened in different months of the years. Apart from that, there are local bodies elections for multiple municipalities and panchayats, which keeps happening somewhere in the country. So in India, there is always an elections happening somewhere or the other. This begs the question, what exactly is the problem with elections happening every few months, and why does the BJP intend to change it? Let's get together and sort of have elections together, one nation, one system. It's all distractions, we know it, we understand it, and we are not going to let them do it. Part 2. BJP's arguments on current election model. Well, the first problem that the BJP argues about it is governance disruptions. Every time India enters election mode, something invisible but devastating keeps happening. The governance of India actually comes to grinding halt. Why? Because every elections triggers something called the Model Code of Conduct. The Model Code of Conduct is a set of rules designed to ensure fair elections in India. But in this process, it hits the pause button on policy making and halts critical developments project. During this time, no government's project or scheme can be inaugurated or announced. And here is the shocking part. This pause does not just last days, it stretches into months. With the elections happening at different levels, national, state and local, this pause repeats itself over and over again. In fact, two economists PCDE and Kishore Desi uncovered a startling truth. They discovered that governance and development activities were suspended for months due to Model Code of Conduct. 3 months nationwide for the Lok Sabha elections and 4 months for 4 states elections. That is over half a year where nothing moves forward. This pouch has consequences that you can actually measure and see for yourself. Public investments during this time slows down, and funds that are meant for your schools, hospitals, and roads get stuck in limbo. With elections happening at different levels, national, state, and local, this pouch repeats itself over and over again. In Maharashtra, if you combine the days spent in campaign, polling, and governance paralysis, the state loses over 300 days during the 5-year tenure. Can you imagine? 300 days is nearly one full year where progress slows down. Secondly, elections are incredibly expensive. The 2019 Lok Sabha elections alone cost 60,000 crores. Add to this the cost of holding multiple states and local bodies in elections separately, and the bills comes enormous. For each election, security forces, schools, and administrative systems are overburdened. Thirdly, there are administrative hurdles. Every time elections are held, essential services takes a hit. Police, teachers, and local officials are pulled away from their duties, and schools turns into polling stations. Police and parliamentary forces leave their post, and local officials are busy with elections work. All of this put together delays essential service for the people of India. Lastly, with elections happening every few months, the politicians are more focused on the elections than on core governance. These are the problems in the existing systems, because of which the BJP now propose the One Nation, One Election bill. Part 3. How this will save us money. In fact, to put that into perspective, the government has even published an entire paper on how it will boost India's GDP by 1.5%, or add about 4.5 lakh crores to our GDP. That is almost half of what we spend on healthcare and one third of our education budget. And it does not stop there. The study has shown that during simultaneous elections, inflation decreases by 1%, government expenditure shoots up by 18%, and investments in the economy increases by 0.5%. So overall, to see this is fantastic, right? The government will function for more days, politicians will be more focused on governance, and the administrations can focus on their core tasks rather than election duties. This, along with thousands of crores in savings, makes it a perfect bill to pass, right? Then the question is, why is the opposition against the One Nation, One Election bill? Are they opposing the bill just for the sake of opposing the BJP? Or do they really have some valid arguments to make? Part 4. Opposition arguments. It is not all practical in this country. One nation, one election. It is one of the BJP's distractions strategy. The opposition really have some very valid points that we must take into consideration. Regardless of what your political inclination is, my only kind request is to think about what is good for the country, not who is presenting these points. So, if you have an open mind, let's dive into the challenges. The first challenge is constitutional and legal hurdles executing the One Nation, One Election bill. You see, India's democracy runs on a federal structure where the central and the state operates independently. Synchronizing elections would demand a massive constitutional overhaul. The governments would need to dissolve all the states' assemblies, each with different tenure, and align them with the Lok Sabha elections. But how do we do it? Do we force states' assemblies to collapse before their tenure ends? Or do we impose president's rule, where the center takes control of the state? Both scenarios are dangerous. To make this work, we would need to rewrite at least 5 constitutional articles. Article 83, 85, 172, 174, and 356. At least 50% of the states must approve these changes. Think about it. In a deeply divided political systems like India, Can this even happen smoothly? The question opposition is asking, were we prepared for forced unity by undermining the spirit of our constitution? The second problem is the overlapping of national and state issues. India is not just one nation, it is a patchwork of diverse states, cultures, and issues. Under one nation, one election, national narratives might overshadow regional voices. In fact, when elections are synchronized, studies shows a 77% chances that voters will choose the same party for both the center and the state. For example, in 2014, the BJP swept the Lok Sabha election with the national wave. During the Haryana Assembly elections later that year, local issues like unemployment and the farmer distresses were overshadowed by Modi wave, helping the BJP dominate again. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu, regional parties like DMK and AIADMK dominates state politics because they focus on issues like Kaveri water dispute and the Tuticorin copper plants dispute. If the elections aligns with national cycle, these concerns risk being drowned out by larger national issues like national security or inflation. For instance, in 2019, the BJP ran a centralized campaign on national security and Prime Minister Modi's image after the Balakot strikes. The BJP won 303 seats nationally, but states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala rejected the BJP because they wanted their parties to focus on state level issues like education and farmer distress. When national elections and state elections merge, what will happen? The bigger parties with massive resources will flood every state with their slogans. The concerns of farmers in Punjab, a weaver in Tamil Nadu, or a fisherman in Kerala may no longer make headlines. Local voices are no match for roaring, well funded national campaign. The opposition argues that if national parties dominates every election, what happened to the delicate balance of power? The third argument is the frequent elections, even through costly, ensure that governments remain accountable to the people throughout their term. Uttar Pradesh is the classic example, even though Yogi Adityanath won in 2022. In the 2024 Lok Sabha election, voters expressed their dissatisfactions, causing the BJP seat to drop from 62 to 33. This shows how voters use elections to express their anger in midterm and choose a different party during the state and the central elections. If elections are held only once for both state and central every 5 years, voters won't have a chance to show their dissatisfactions. The opposition argues that while we might achieve efficiency, we could compromise on accountability. The question is, where the one nation one election policy has so many logistical challenges, how does the BJP intend to align a billion people, 28 states, hundreds of local bodies, and decades of tradition into a single synchronized system? Part 5. How it will works. The BJP has a phase plan that is expected to transform the way India works forever. Phase 1 is about synchronizing local and state assembly elections. Imagine this: one election, one booth, but two votes. During these elections, every Indian will walk into a polling stations and cast not one but two votes. One for their MPs to decide who runs the central government and another for their MLA to decide who governs their state. It is said to be simple, efficient, and most importantly, it is expected to save a lot of times, money, and effort. But this is only the beginning. Phase 2 is proposed to bring local body election into the system. Phase 2 aims to bring even the smallest elections in the same cycle, including the panchayats, municipalities, and corporations. These elections will take place within 100 days of the Lok Sabha and state assembly polls. At the end of this journey, the BJP says that India will witness something it has never seen before, a perfectly synchronized elections calendar for the entire country. But before you think this is simple, I have to tell you that nothing in the politics is either simple or efficient. And just like every other policy, there is one big problem with the implementation of the One Nation, One Election policy. Implementing this plan is not just about aligning ideas. It is about overcoming decades of political chaos, ensuring fairness, and the most importantly, resetting the system without breaking it. To truly understand this, you need to understand four critical concepts: full term, unexpired term, general election, and mid-term elections. Don't worry, I will make these terms simple for you. Let's start with full term and general elections. Here is the ideal scenario. In 2024, you elect your Lok Sabha MP and your state MLA. Both these central and state governments begins their journey together and serve their full 5-year terms until 2029. Then, in 2029, voters comes back and cast their votes again and the cycle resets. It sounds smooth and perfect, right? But as unusual in politics, nothing is smooth or perfect. When things go wrong, we will see unexpired terms and mid-terms elections come up. Imagine this. It is 2024 and Maharashtra's new government starts its 5-year term, which is supposed to last until December 2029. But then a political crisis hits and the governments collapse in 2027. This leaves 2 years of terms unfulfilled. Now, this period of 2 unfulfilled years is called the unexpired term, and to fill these mid-term elections will be held. Here is the crucial part. This new government, elected in 2027, will not get a fresh 5-year terms. Instead, they will serve only the remaining 2 years until 2029, aligning with the original election cycle. These rules ensure that no matter what happens, the election system resets every 5 years. But this begs another big question. How do we reset the current election cycles? Elections for different states and the Lok Sabha, as of now, do not align at all. Karnataka's terms will end in 2028, Delhi will hold elections in 2030, and the Lok Sabha's term will end in 2029. So how do we bring all these elections onto the same calendar? This is where the BJP has proposed a one-time transition phase. To bring order to this chaos, here is how they plan to align every election step by step. Firstly, we will have an appointment date. For example, on May 1st, 2029, the entire country would vote in the general elections and a brand new Lok Sabha will sworn in. On this day, the president will issue an official notification declaring this as the appointment date. From this day onward, a special rule will align the terms of all states' assemblies with the Lok Sabha's 5-year term. Here is how it will work. Karnataka will hold its election in 2029 instead of 2028. Karnataka's term will automatically extend by 1 year to perfectly synchronize with the Lok Sabha election. Similarly, Delhi's term, which would have run until 2030, will end 1 year earlier in 2029 to align with the Lok Sabha. Some states will see their terms end earlier while others will see an extension to their terms. No matter when a state elections happen, its terms will reset to end with the Lok Sabha's term. If the Lok Sabha or state assembly is dissolved before its terms ends, a mid-term election will be held and the newly elected governments will only serve the remaining unexpired term. This ensures the BJP resets itself every 5 years, no matter how unpredictable Indian politics gets. The BJP envisions that by 2034, India will witness something revolutionary. Every Indians will cast their votes in the same election cycle for both the Lok Sabha and every state assembly. For the first time in the history, India will have a fully synchronized election system that saves resources, eliminates political distraction, and gives governments a clear mandate to govern for 5 years. But there is one big problem. Under this new system, if a state governments collapse mid-terms, fresh elections will elect a government that serves only the short terms of 1 or 2 years. Why would this party in power focus on long-term reforms when they are on borrowed tenure? Would these governments prioritize bold long-term reforms, or would they resort to quick fix, populism and freebies? Think about it. They would try to survive the next elections, right? This way, governance becomes about short term survival, and the people progress and the state's futures pay the price. Conclusion. First is synchronizing elections could bring efficiency and national unity, but we risk silencing regional voices as a national wave might overshadow local issues. Second, simultaneously, elections may allow voters to focus on borders, national priorities, but state specific problems might lose attention. Reducing elections to one every 5 years would ensure government stability for the long term policies, but frequent elections ensures constant accountability. Fourth, aligning terms ensures synchronized elections but may lead to governments focusing on short term gains during midterms. 5. Reforming the model code of conduct could prevent policy paralysis without disrupting the election system. The ultimate question is, when something can be fixed with a minor tweak in the model code of conduct, why risk disrupting the entire election system and spending 10,000 crores? These are the questions we need to think about as the One Nation, One Election bill moves through the parliaments. If you found this video insightful, please share it with your friends and family so they too can understand something so important for our country. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more such insightful video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care.